So, let me introduce our keynote speaker for this morning, and a little bit of a quick change in plans for our Deputy Minister, David O'Toole. It's been a tradition at our AGM to have our Minister of Natural Resources, who leads off Friday morning. In my years, I've never had a deputy, so this is a first, so it's good, a first. We've had MPPs sub in for ministers who've been away, etc., but I think we're going to do well today with our, and I think, relatively new Deputy Minister of Natural Resources. We've got a new minister and relatively new deputy. As I said, Minister Gravellle is unable to be with us because he has been ill and could not travel back from Thunder Bay, his riding. I hope, Minister Gravellle, you're watching this morning live online. If you are, I want to say good morning to you and hope you're feeling better. David O'Toole was appointed as Deputy Minister of Natural Resources in November 30th of 2011. At the time of his appointment, Mr. O'Toole was serving as Deputy Minister of Northern Development and Mines and Acting Deputy Minister of Natural Resources, so he had 2 points of reference. Prior to his appointment to M&R, Mr. O'Toole served as Assistant Deputy Minister of Economic, Environment, Justice and Intergovernmental Policy in Cabinet. He's also served as Assistant Deputy Minister of Policy and Planning and Director of Urban and Rural Infrastructure and Policy in the Ministry of Transportation, and has held progressively responsible positions in Cabinet Office and the Ministries of Public Infrastructure, Renewal and Transportation and Health. He's also from rural Ontario, actually a township that I used to be a councillor in, Otonabee Township near Peterborough, Ontario. Lots of relatives there. He's from a farm family. He has a background in fishing and hunting. So need I say more? We've got a deputy minister who understands fishing and hunting, and no disrespect to those deputies we've had before, but what an opportunity for the OFAH, for Angelo and Greg and others who are going to carry on after March 30th, to have a new minister who's engaged and a new deputy who is engaged. So it gives me great pleasure in welcoming our keynote speaker this morning, our Deputy Minister, David O'Toole.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just delighted to be here to speak on behalf of Minister Gravellle. I know it's a little disappointing when you've got a tradition of a minister, but it happened quickly, and it's an illness that, as Mike says, isn't life-threatening or anything like that, but he needs to be in a place where he can recover so he can get back into business next week. And I'd like to reinforce Michael's sentiment about the degree of the minister's regret. He was looking forward to this for months. So you'll get other opportunities, believe me. I'm delighted to be here for the 84th Annual General Meeting for the Fish and Wildlife Conference. I was appointed in May of 2011, and I can say that this is one of the most sought-after positions in the public service of Ontario because of the tradition and legacy of its history. I thought I'd won the lottery. Since I came here, I've gained a greater appreciation for the many ways in which your organization works with the ministry. I know that we cooperate on a wide range of initiatives, and we certainly appreciate our involvement with you and our partnerships. One of the characteristics that our two organizations share is our geographical reach, an impressive reach across the expanse of the province. Particularly the communities in the north are a significant aspect of M&R's operations, and for its part, the OFAH has more than 670 clubs and countless volunteers throughout the province. With so many boots on the ground, so to speak, with both organizations, in communities across the province, and with many shared values, there are numerous opportunities for productive partnerships. We value the partnership we have with the OFAH. I see from the agenda, I'm delighted to see that there's a number of M&R staff members who will be speaking to you later today. And I note also Mike's retirement celebration tomorrow. I know that tomorrow is the time to focus on that, and there'll be a lot more said. On a personal note, Mike will be missed as the leader of this organization by me, by the people who've worked closely with him over the past few years. A number of our organization's cooperative efforts, the things that we've done together and have begun to do together and have completed together, have started under Mike's watch. And so I'd like to take an opportunity now to talk about those, plus some of our other achievements, and highlight a few of the partnerships we've been involved with. Family Fishing Week, held last month, continues to be a great way to get people hooked on fishing. On February 15th, Minister Gravellle was joined on Pass Lake near Thunder Bay by representatives of the OFAH and the Northwestern Ontario Sportsmen's Alliance to help promote this year's Family Fishing Weekend. Combined with Family Fishing Week, the two events have been instrumental in growing the angling community and reaching out to new Canadians. And your Tackle Share program helps make it possible for people who might not know where to get fishing gear to take part in these annual events. On species restoration of wild turkey, we've made tremendous progress in restoring part of Ontario's rich natural legacy. Not just turkey, but also elk and Atlantic salmon. Wild turkey populations continue to thrive. The efforts to restore wild turkey began in the mid-1980s, and today we have a population of over 70,000. The first hunt took place in 1987 with about 1,000 hunters. In 2010, there were over 40,000 active turkey hunters in the province, a reflection of the interest in this activity. The growth of this hunt provides tremendous economic benefit both locally and provincially. Elk restoration is another success story. Between 1998 and 2001, elk were brought in from Alberta and released at 4 sites across the province. Populations have increased and the species has thrived, particularly in the Bancroft area. It's not without its issues. As you know, the first elk hunt in Ontario since the successful restoration of the species was held this last September. The ministry recently consulted on a proposal to extend the elk season in Bancroft by 1 week through a posting on the Environmental Registry. We believe that the healthy, self-sustaining elk populations in this area can support a longer hunt. I expect that a decision on this proposal will be made in the near future. And we've been grateful to you for your role as a proponent for elk restoration and management and for your support of Ontario's elk management plan. The Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program is another example of an exciting initiative that you have helped spearhead, along with many other conservation organizations, corporations, and community groups throughout the province. We're proud to be working alongside so many dedicated partners in the reintroduction of this valued native species. This is one of the largest freshwater restoration projects in North America, and there were a number of significant milestones during the first 5 years of the program, including stocking the 3 millionth fish, witnessing the first adults returning to the restored streams, completing 100 habitat rehabilitation projects, enhancing the hatchery production of Atlantic salmon, including the acquisition of strains from Quebec and Maine, and the participation of thousands of students in the very popular classroom hatchery program. We appreciate your continuing commitment to the Atlantic salmon restoration, and we look forward to meeting the challenges of the next phase of this conservation program together with the Ontario Power Generation. The recognition that the project has received, particularly at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show as the Conservation Project of the Year, is well deserved. I'm sure it's our shared hope that one day anglers will enjoy fishing for naturally reproducing Atlantic salmon in Lake Ontario and its tributaries. The elephant in the room at this point in the year is the fiscal circumstance of the province. So I would be remiss if I didn't spend some time talking about that as well. And while there are so many partnerships that we can celebrate, I'd like to say a few words about what's top of mind for the government right now. The Premier has made it clear that we are entering a period, the Premier and the Minister of Finance, where the government cannot continue to operate as it has in the past. We have a projected budget deficit of $16 billion, one which the government has committed to eliminating by 2017-2018, and to do so while protecting healthcare and education and not raising taxes. It's a tall order, and the focus of the efforts to manage that deficit will be through reform of how the government delivers its services. The report last week of the Commission on the Reform of Public Services by Don Drummond has provided tremendous insight and advice, some of which the government, I expect, will take, others it won't. It was 400 pages long and 362 recommendations, encompassing virtually all aspects of government endeavor. In addition to reviewing the recommendations of Drummond, I understand that Finance Minister Duncan is hearing from Ontarians as part of his pre-budget consultations as well. The budget will contain the government's program and plan to reduce the deficit. And what's on your mind and my mind is how is this likely to affect the ministry's fish and wildlife program? I can't say with any precision at this point, obviously. We know that the budget's coming out on the 27th, but we can identify a few trends and indicators. There's no question that there will be a fiscal pressure on the program for the upcoming year, and there's just no question. There's going to be no ministry that escapes without a hit to its budget. Like all ministries, every stakeholder that we deal with will feel the impact of these decisions across the province. What my commitment is, I've said to Mike and to the leadership of the OFAH, I've said it to Ducks Unlimited, I've said it to all of our major stakeholders. As soon as we know the hand we've been dealt, we'll sit down with you and we'll share it with you. It'll be as transparent as possible, and we'll take a look at what the impacts will be and how we can work together to manage through what's likely to be a 5 or 6 year program. And I'm happy to answer questions about that during the Q&A period as well. I'd like to talk now as well about the licensing automation system, which is another project that we're leading, but which we've enjoyed the understanding, patience, and partnership of your membership as we've introduced this. I've got updates for you on a variety of hunting and fishing matters, and I'm going to start with the licensing automation system. We've modernized and automated the licensing system so that anglers and hunters can choose from a variety of ways to buy fishing and hunting licenses quickly and conveniently. Hunters and anglers will have the option of going online and printing your own license from the convenience of your home, calling an automated phone line, or getting your license over the counter at Service Ontario. I'm not going to stand up here and say it's been seamless. We made some mistakes in the introduction of this. We're working on fixing those errors. Other errors will come up as it's in the matter of a technical project like this. When we identify them, we fix them. We appreciate the patience of the OFAH and yourself as we go through the implementation of this project. When we identify errors, we fix them, and we make sure that the system will be as responsive and customer-friendly as possible by the time it's introduced. All 69 Service Ontario centres that sell fishing and hunting licenses, as well as process hunter accreditation, are now operating. There's hundreds of outside issuers, with more receiving their equipment this week, next week, over the course of the spring, and getting the training required to help them understand and use the equipment. Seasonal operators are expected to be selling licenses by the 1st of May, and so the rollout of the project is progressing. As we identify glitches, we fix them, but the rollout is progressing. Hunters and anglers have used the new system to buy nearly 325,000 licenses and outdoors cards since December. And on March 1st, we began accepting applications for the antlerless deer draw on the automated system. I started to hear some specific problems about the antlerless deer draw yesterday, and our folks are on it this morning. You'll be hearing more about this initiative from Mike Morency this afternoon, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mike will be here to help me as well at the Q&A period. I'd now like to update on a couple of other wildlife-related matters. The first is tracking dogs in hunting. You'll be interested to know that the ministry has initiated a consultation on a proposal to expand the permitted use of dogs in hunting. The expansion will allow the use of leashed dogs to track and retrieve wounded big game animals in areas of Ontario where hunting with dogs is currently prohibited. Ministry colleagues tell me that this issue was first raised in a question posed to the former minister by an OFAH member at last year's convention. So when you share your ideas and suggestions, we are listening and we are acting on them where we can. We've discussed this proposal in particular in some detail, and the principal benefit is that it will promote wildlife conservation through the enhanced recovery of harvested big game. I encourage all of you to take a look at and review and comment on the proposal that we've put out. We do want to hear from you. We're also moving ahead with some important changes in falconry in the province. Last year, we consulted on a proposal to allow licensed falconers to take some specified bird species from the wild under certain conditions for use in falconry. I'm pleased to let you know that those provisions have been approved, and falconers can begin to use birds taken from the wild beginning this fall. Only 4 common species of raptors can be taken, and the birds will be nestlings or chicks taken out of nests, or juvenile raptors trapped during their first migration. We're featuring falconry on the cover of the 2012 Hunting Regulations Summary and also at this year's Sportsman Show downtown. It's always a big hit, and we hope that we're going to use the presence of the falconers to promote interest in this new change. The ministry is also continuing to implement Ontario's updated moose program. Further enhancements are planned to moose management, including a re-evaluation of the desired size of the moose populations across the province and how best to achieve those desired levels. That work is underway. The OFAH has been a key contributor to Ontario's renewal of moose management to date, and your advice and wisdom will continue to be important as we move forward on this subject. Consultation on the proposed objectives are scheduled for the summer and early fall. With respect to Sunday gun hunting, I'm pleased to let you know that the Sunday gun hunting opportunities continue to expand. Since 2005, municipalities in Southern Ontario have been requesting that the minister allow Sunday gun hunting in their areas. To date, 160 municipalities in Southern Ontario now have Sunday gun hunting, and I expect a decision will be made in the near future on adding a few more such municipalities to the list. The progress on this is largely attributed to the OFAH's outreach efforts with their membership and with us. Last April, we launched our Fish Online interactive tool. Since then, it's been accessed 63,000 times, and we continue to modify and improve that tool online. We're updating the data and adding new functions to make it even easier to use. When we first launched Fish Online, we knew we wanted to develop a mobile version as well for use on cell phones. That work is underway, and a mobile version is scheduled for release this spring. In the meantime, a demonstration version of the mobile tool is available right now at the Sportsman Show downtown. If you head over to the show this weekend, I encourage you to check it out and take a look. Also, with respect to fishing in the province, fish culture is an important part of our fisheries management program. The rebuilding of the Normandale Fish Culture Station, which I toured about 2 weeks ago, was first constructed in the 1920s and is totally being revamped. Normandale is the center of production for Atlantic salmon for the Lake Ontario Salmon Restoration Program and is our new home for Chinook salmon production. The substation was completed in October and is now holding production fish. Construction of the new main station building is underway and is scheduled for completion in fall of 2012. Also, with respect to fish culture, I'd like to recognize the great work done by the OFAH at Ringwood. The OFAH M&R Ringwood partnership concluded in September of this past year, and the leadership of the OFAH over the past 5 years in operating the Ringwood Fish Culture Station with the support of the Metro East anglers is much appreciated. Through this partnership, Ringwood produced nearly 3 million Chinook over the last 5 years. That's an amazing achievement. There's two final items before we get to your questions that I'd like to speak to. The first is the Fish and Wildlife Congress this May. I congratulate the OFAH for being the lead organizer for the first National Fish and Wildlife Congress to be held in Ottawa this coming May. I know everyone's worked really hard at that effort and continues to. This important gathering of fish and wildlife professionals promises to be informative and productive. My ministry and I am really pleased to be contributing not just funding, but the expertise of our M&R colleagues, many of whom will be speaking at that Congress. Finally, one of the topics of discussion at the Congress is likely to be the threat that invasive species pose to our natural resources, our biodiversity, and the economy of the province. They're costing us millions of dollars. Without a doubt, invasives are a growing environmental and economic threat to the province. We prepared a draft Ontario Invasive Species Strategic Plan to help better address the threat of invasive species, and this plan is being updated to reflect comments we've received from you and others, and we'll be posting it on the Environmental Registry very soon. While this work is continuing, our conservation officers, many of whom are in the room today, remain vigilant and are taking action with respect to, in particular, Asian carp. As you probably know from reading the papers, a number of shipments of this species were halted in the last couple of months. Charges for possessing live carp were laid on January 9th at the Windsor border crossing. 2,600 pounds of intermixed live and dead invasive carp were seized by the conservation officers. And a couple of weeks later, another shipment was stopped with about 6,800 pounds of live and dead carp seized as well. Another incident occurred at the end of February and is still under investigation. So in the last year and a half, our officers have stopped three other attempted crossings of live Asian carp into the province. We've hosted this past year a very successful response simulation exercise to test our ability to respond quickly if Asian carp are discovered in Ontario's waters, and we're gratified with the results of that. Given the impact, the tremendous negative impact that invasive species can have on the environment, we have played a role with the federal government in the establishment of the new Invasive Species Centre in Sault Ste. Marie. The new centre supports research to help combat invasive species that threaten our natural resources and ecosystems, and it will serve as a home base for cooperative research, management efforts related to invasive species, and research and work including invasive forest and aquatic species as well as invasive plants.